You're live.
Good morning. Happy Monday and welcome to Power Talk. And I've got an amazing show for you today. I just can't tell you how excited I am about this. I've been waiting all weekend for this time to actually happen. My guest is Paul Selig, and he has created some really breakthrough works in channel literature. He's an author and a medium, and he's created an extraordinary program for personal and planetary evolution that has been life-changing, completely pivotal for me. So he's from New York City, and he had a spiritual experience in 1987 that encouraged him or left him as a clairvoyant. And he has used that and open to hear for his clients. And here, I'm going to let him explain who he channels. But anyway, he's written 5 books, and I recommend all of them. They're all amazing. But his most recent book is called The Book of Truth. And because it was the last one that I read, it is not as marked up and underlined and dog-eared as all of my others, because I have read all of his books now, some of them 3 times, all of them 2 times. So welcome, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it is my pleasure. I mean, we've got this group of people that are Paul Selig followers that, yeah. It started because 2 of my friends kept telling me, have you ever heard of this guy? Have you read any of his books? I'm like, no, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. I have to read a book a week, for my show. So no, leave me alone. And it just kept on, and they wouldn't shut up. And so I went out on Amazon and I ordered a used, cheapest copy I could find of the book of Knowing and Worth. And from that, I've bought all of your books, and I have, like I said, I've read them all many times, and began to see massive change in my life through that. And, I guess that's the proof of the pudding, is when you actually begin to see change. So tell us how it all got started, Paul.
Well, I was about a year out of graduate school. I had studied playwriting at Yale. I was having the beginnings of an exciting career. But my personal life was a bit of a train wreck. And I think really more out of necessity than out of any desire for a spiritual life. I've been raised pretty much an atheist. I began to look for something more. And when I did that, I actually got a response. And I found myself in the beginning of a whole lot of change. I had an experience a few months later of energy, and for all I know, I may have been hyperventilating. I don't really know what happened. People later said it sounded like a spontaneous Kundalini awakening or a Shaktipa or something. I really don't know. I don't even know that it matters. But I started seeing little lights around people, shortly thereafter. And, I studied a form of energy healing about 2 years later, after going to energy healers to get a context for what I was starting to experience myself. And I found that when I had my hands on people, I could hear things for them, which was the beginning of clairaudience. And I could feel what was going on with people originally in their bodies, because I was volunteering at a center that was providing services for people with life-challenging illness. But now when I do that work, I'm sort of feeling the whole being, the emotional self and the mental self and the different aspects of the self. But I began channeling, and I did a little group in my apartment that met for about 18 years. I wasn't lecturing as I do now. I was interested in sitting in a group and being in the energy that would come through, because the energy was palpable. And, after doing this for many years, I'll just cut to the end. The guides one day say, well, we have a book to write, and if you take 2 weeks, we'll do it. And then once I agreed, all bets were off, and they've been dictating books ever since. So the first book, I Am the Word, took about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks of sittings. And all of the books are really the unedited transcripts of the channeling sessions. So when you say I write books, I actually really don't. I sit in a chair with my eyes closed and the tape recorder on, or in front of a group of people, and the guides lecture, and then they say, and this is in the book, or they'll say chapter 1 and then continue, because it'll be a formal session on the book. And that's how this happened. So that's my story. I was a college teacher for 25 years. I recently left academia in a formal sense to do this work all the time because I just kept getting invited to do it. And that's my life now. So that's the whole story.
I love it. I love it. And, I love in your books how they are unedited and the guides chide you from time to time, especially when you get in their way. I think that's really sweet. Well, it doesn't feel sweet to you.
No, I mean, I understand it, and I'm grateful for the interplay. I'm a conscious channel. When I hear the words, I whisper them as they come and then repeat them. And when I'm doing a book or when I'm doing a group, sometimes it's coming at a lightning speed, very, very fast. I have great respect for the transcriptionist who's now taking these recordings and typing them up because it's coming so quickly. But if they say something that I have a hard time with, I've been known to interrupt them and say, hey, what do you mean? Or, hey, this doesn't sound right. Because even though I am not the author of the books, my name is landing on the cover. And truthfully, I don't really want to be party to anything that's going to screw people up or confuse them or make things worse. So if, they were to say the moon is made of green cheese, I'm sure I would say, hey, wait a minute, I don't get that. And they would have to unpack the teaching or explain it to me. Sometimes I say, we'll take this up later, let us finish the dictation. And then at the end of the session, they'll take my question. But for the most part, that's where it does become a collaboration.
Gotcha. So your first book, I Am the Word, has been out now, what, about 7 years?
About 7 years, yeah.
And it really kind of lays the groundwork. I wish I had read that first.
Yeah, it does lay the groundwork. And I have to say the guides are incredibly consistent in building a teaching, although I wasn't aware of that at the beginning. And I'm sure if I were to go back and look at I Am the Word, and I haven't for quite some time, I would see the seeds of what they're talking about now, 7, 8 years later.
But the basic premise, as I understand it, is having us individually claim who we are, claim that we're a unique aspect of the divine.
That's it. I mean, that's who they say, that's who we truly are, and everything else is just an idea and stuff that we've ascribed to and agreed to and inherited. And our true nature, the infinite self or the divine self, whatever you want to call it or they want to call it, at its essence is who we are. And as we start aligning to that and agreeing to that and co-resonating with that, we begin to express it in our world, and this changes the world we live in.
Yeah. And it does build. I think that the Book of Love and Creation really helped me a lot. And like I said, I didn't read that first. That was my second book. It helped me a lot to learn how to apply these statements of I am word through whatever. I know who I am. I know what I am. I know how I serve. Because up until I started reading this, I don't know that I truly realized that. I mean, I might have preached about it and taught about it in classes, but I don't think I got it in my heart.
I don't know that I fully get it in my heart. When I'm channeling, I do, because I know it's true. And I can feel it. And when I'm in that energy, it's clearly true. And it's not only true for me, it's true for everybody. When I'm operating in my daily life, in my small self, or whatever you want to call it, is getting, wanting to get what he wants to feel better or safer or okay in the world, I forget. And I think the challenge with his teaching in a lot of ways is integrating it. And I applaud you for having done so.
Oh, I mean, it's my passion now, because I know that it was the next step for me on my journey. I'm a channel as well, and I've received a lot of really good stuff that I've put out there for people. But I don't know that I ever let go of the small me, the one who didn't really trust herself or didn't, whatever.
Yeah, I do. I mean, the guides that I work with are bringing through a very specific teaching in stages. And that's very much the work they do, whether they're working with students in workshops or live streams or in the books. I mean, the books, I guess, are the distillation of their teaching. So, they're hopefully supporting us all in what we're experiencing now, and sort of claiming and owning this in a deeper or more truthful way.
I mean, it's such timely information because we are really in a time of huge change. In fact, I just, where did I find this? Yeah, and in the Book of Truth, one of the things that they say is, here's the truth. When the wind of truth is blowing, when you are aligning as it, even the biggest boulder you can imagine will be carried away. Mm-hmm. And we're facing a lot of interesting boulders right now, I think, on our paths.
Yeah, and our individual paths, certainly, and obviously our collective paths.
Yes.
I mean, what the guides have said is that truth is a vibration that's here, and they talk about it as a wind or a wave, and they say, that everything that's not aligned to truth is going to be moved by that. They say, in truth, a lie cannot be held.
Right.
And, the level of agreement that we all have to structures and politics and any kind of structure, I guess, that you can name, that's sort of not truthful, is going to have to be made new or reknown in some way. And I mean, that's what they're saying. And it's an interesting time to sort of witness all this play out. I would agree.
Yeah, and I think that the more effort that each of us puts into being who we really are, the less messy this can be.
I hope so. I think that we can learn through anything. We can learn through everything. I mean, we're here in a body, and we have free will, and there's individual will and choice, and there's the collective as well. And I do get from the guides that, everything is an opportunity to learn, even the greatest, I'll use the word because you used it, messes that we could possibly make, but that there are other ways to encourage change and to call it forth. And I hope that that's so, I really do.
Yeah, I believe that it is, because what I'm finding is that as I move in my truth and I claim my power to create, it is less messy. I mean, and it seems to be easy, peaceful, harmonious.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I want some of what you're having.
What I'm smoking.
I think the less resistance we have to holding on to the known and to believing that what we've thought we were is what we are, or how we've needed to be perceived is important. I think the more willing we are to let go of the narratives that we overly attach to, the easier it is to have flow. I very much believe that. And I think the more attached we are, the more challenging it is. Who wants to change when you don't know what's coming?
Right.
And that's where faith comes into play.
Exactly. So, I think one of the major takeaways that I got from this book has to do with how all of our belief systems are pretty much been based on lies, fear-based stuff.
Well, I think a lot of them have. And, I did a workshop yesterday in New York City, and the guides were saying, you're not the name your parents gave you. You're not your gender. You're not your job. You're not your place in society. You're not your race or your, go down the list, all the things that we've identified with. That's not to say that it's not true that I'm in a male body or that this is my work, but the idea of identification through things that are untrue, I think, is very prevalent. And I think the cultural directives that we receive about what it means to be a man, what it means to be successful, what it means to be spiritual, all of these things are frankly really fraught with a lot of inherited garbage, that we don't even question, because just what we came, it's always been here, so until we start to question what we see or align to the truth of it, which hopefully can then transform our experience of it, we're going to be perpetuating a lot of history that we may not need.
Exactly. And I think, one of the big tools that you give, or that your guides give, is the statement, I am word through all I see before me. Because to say the truth, then you can only see truth.
That's very much, I mean, it's an old teaching. I'm sure it's been said by many others than my guides, but the idea that God or the divine sees God or the divine in everything it sees, how could it not, is really deeply transforming. And the guides define the word as the action of the creator. And when you claim that, I am word through all that I see before me, you're claiming the witness of the divine in all manifestation. And they would say you're claiming what's already true, what's already there. You're not making it up. I mean, if there is a God, you know, and the guides say that there is, whatever you want to understand it as, it has to be all things. It can't just be the pretty nice things and the unicorns and the rainbows and the smudge sticks and the namastes. It's got to be all of it, you know, all of it. And so our exclusion of those things from source attaches us to them in a lower field, in a lower vibration, or in a lower agreement. I suppose you could say it in a number of ways. So I agree with you.
Yeah, you know, and yeah, I had a thought and it just vanished. So you're actually going to be down in my neck of the woods to teach a week-long retreat, right?
I'm going to be in Boone, North Carolina coming up. I'm going to be there next week, I think it is already. My goodness. So next week. Yeah, it's a 5-day workshop. And that's where the guides really, I don't even know what to expect. You know, I don't plan any of this. I show up in the chair and close my eyes, and I hope to God that they have enough material to fill, you know, the workshop. And they've never let us down.
Yeah.
The 5-day workshops are like usually enrolling in the graduate school course with the guides, because they have a captive audience and time to really move people through stuff that's often pretty astonishing. They've just, I believe, if I'm to believe what happened yesterday, begun a new book, which I thought I had another month before the sitting started. And I'm wondering if they're going to use Boone to dictate a new book. They dictated 100 pages of the Book of Truth during retreats at the Esalen Institute about a little over a year ago. So they've been known to take every opportunity. So yeah, I'm going to be in your neck of the woods and channeling up a storm. 5 days is a lot.
Wow. Yeah. That was going to be my next question is, when do you expect another book from them? So you just answered that. Wow. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's due to the publisher. I mean, I agreed. The guide said we have 3 more books. We have a trilogy. And because, you know, there was a publisher involved, I have a delivery date, which is the end of November. So, I mean, you know, the books take on average of 30 days of sittings each, you know, now, because in the first book I was channeling for an hour and a half a day. Now I'll do, you know, 20 to 40 minutes in a sitting for a book, unless I'm in a workshop, and then they'll just do everything there if they can, because I'm channeling anyway. So, you know, my hope is that they have one done by when my editor expects to receive it. I mean, in the past, they've been good on it. And, you know, I'm always nervous when a book is beginning, because the rule has been that I don't get to change things. You know, I don't get to go back and fix things. It's as it comes. And they did. Should I say this? Yes, I did. Yes, I did a workshop in New York yesterday, and I kept thinking, boy, this sounds like it's a book, because the channeling was so laid out carefully, you know, and well spoken, and they always are, but this was at a level that I recognized as being familiar with the book. And I said halfway through the session, is this a book session? Because they know that I've been worried about starting, and at the end I heard it was. So let's see, I'm hoping maybe they'll change their mind and say, well, that was to prepare you for the book to come and not the book itself. But I haven't seen the transcript yet. It may be great. I have no clue. But this is the challenge. I'm always a little nervous starting a book, because if one day they do say, and the moon is made out of green cheese, I don't know what I'm going to do. You know, I can't change it.
Yeah,
I have to really explain it pretty well.
I have a feeling that that's not going to ever be an issue, you know, based on what I've seen so far.
You know, it was when I did the first book, I Am the Word, I honestly didn't think it was really going to happen. I agreed to it. They said, we have a book to write. I was on the phone with this woman, Victoria Nelson, when they said it, and she agreed to be present for it. And she's been present by phone for all the chapters that have been dictated in my office. although now many of them are done in front of an audience, the chapters. But I wasn't expecting it to add up. And it wasn't until the whole thing was typed up, once the dictation was done, that it was like, wow, this really is a book. And it's been like that every time. So I think they've been wonderfully consistent, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, I mean, I know how that feels, because when I opened a channel, I was driving in my car and I heard a voice tell me that I was done with the work I'd been doing up to that point. And I started arguing, because that's what I do. I'm like, wait a minute, you can't be taking away my livelihood unless you've got something better, silence. You are done with what you've been doing, and then it started coming in and I had no earthly idea what it was until I'd finished 144 chapters of information. And then the last thing they did was show me how to use it.
Wow.
And so thousands of people all over the world have benefited from InnerSpeak now, and I teach it globally. But who knew?
I don't know that we can know until it happens. I think if we did know, maybe it wouldn't be channeling, I mean, people say, what are you going to channel about today? Once in a while, I'll get a phrase, respect, or, whatever, manifestation and fear. I mean, I may hear that much, but, wherever they go is wherever they're going to go. And I assume it's the same thing for everybody who works at this level.
Probably.
It's about being receptive. It's not about directing it.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I think that I haven't had the courage yet to step out and actually, claim that I'm a channel. I don't talk about being a channel. I just
so congratulations. When I had my first, when I was working, and I was a full-time academic, and people started wanting to come to talk to the guides, I had to get a website finally, just to process individual payments, for sessions from people that weren't coming in to see me in the city where I live. And, I had a website without my name on it and no photograph. It had the business name, and it was like a speakeasy. If you didn't know me and you didn't know the website, you were never going to find me, which is just what I wanted it. And after the first book came out, it became a little ridiculous to pretend that I wasn't the channel for it, because my name was on the cover. And then it was a process of saying, okay, well, this is what it is. I don't understand it either. I'm showing up for it anyway. If it makes you uncomfortable, I can't really help you with it. My need, which I think was present for a period of time, to be approved of for this, not the content, but it was my way of it was like Jan Brady when she wore that crazy wig, and do I look okay? I started to sort of let myself be seen and talk about what I do. I think I was initially assessing a response to see if I was still safe in my world. But for the most part, what I found is people don't care. They're too busy thinking about themselves anyway. They really are. So, the action of fear is to claim more fear, and hiding from this doesn't necessarily do anybody any good. In fact, what it may do is prohibit people from hearing what you actually have to say.
Yeah, exactly. And boy, you've hit on a good point there. And that really is, again, it's a big piece of what you're teaching is being able to see the difference between what's created from love and what's created from fear.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I really do, I would say, make an effort to practice is avoiding or denying fear-based choices, because the guides say every choice we ever make in fear gets us more of the same. The action of fear is to continue to replicate itself. And I found that that's helpful, because when you stop creating things in fear, you stop having to deal with the repercussions of it, which is a nice thing. And creating in love, I suppose that could be understood as creating without fear, or without the needs that the small self has to assert itself and to claim what it thinks it should be in the world, which again is usually fear-based.
Yeah. I'll tell you, there have been just so many profound changes that have happened for me in the last couple of months, because I was reading your book before I went to France for holiday, and I read it. I finished it on the plane, and that was just mid-May, and all of this has happened since then. But one of the most amazing things is I can't tell a lie anymore.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't either. And the guys say there's never a lie told that hasn't been told in fear.
Yes. Yeah.
When I'm tempted to, and it's usually not about, you know, a lie that I might want to tell is, you really hurt my feelings and you made me feel, you know, and I go, do you really want to do that? That's what I hear. I said, do you really want to do that? Because if you do that, you're living with the residual impact of it, which
Forever.
forever, pretty much. Yeah. So, yeah, there's never been a lie told that has not been told in fear, is what they say, even the white lies.
Exactly. And those were the ones I was mostly guilty of.
Yeah, yeah, oh, me too. You
Yeah.
know, but you know, there are ways to say something in a way that is not hurtful or harmful, and maintain integrity. I mean, to say, if somebody asked me out on a date, and I wish they would, and I wasn't interested, I can say, you know, I'm not available, and I'm not. I'm not available to go on a date. I don't have to say, you know, I would love to go out to you, but I'm leaving town for 3 weeks and blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? Which is just spinning something that's going to get me nothing. I mean, it's convenient, I suppose, but you know, it's convenient to the small self.
Right.
And there's really no growth in that comes. You know, I recently had a situation where I had something that I had to speak to somebody about professionally. I really didn't want to, because I knew there would be, you know, a repercussion, but the guide said, do it. And I did it. And there was, but I learned through the repercussion. What I didn't do was try to just sort of pretend it didn't happen. I don't have to say anything, which is what my small self wants me to do. Let's just keep the peace and not worry about anything, you know, whereas sometimes, you know, we've got to just sort of be in our truth. And I mean, that's actually, I wish I hadn't said that, be in our truth, because the guides don't talk about personal truth. Be in truth, period.
Yeah.
And then live with it, you know.
Because that really is, I think, what we're called to do. That's all there is just to be in truth.
Yeah, well, you know,
if you do that, everything else should fall into place.
That's my hope, you know. I mean, what they talk about truth, which is interesting to me, if I recall this, and you've read the book more recently than I have, as sort of a dispassionate energy. It's not love. Truth isn't there to coddle you. It just is what it is.
Right.
And in that, and they've actually said that truth paves the way to love. And I don't know if I quite understand that teaching it, but they've said it a number of times. But I do agree that, you know, if the idea is that in truth and the vibration of truth and the intention of truth, a lie cannot be held, that really is a game changer. Yeah. Because, you know, we stop abiding by and adhering to and agreeing to lies that are prevalent and have been so prevalent, we don't even necessarily assume that they're lies.
Right.
You know? And that's a big, big change.
And I think I do get that statement about truth paving the way to love, because when you stand in that truth, then, you know, that's all there really is left. There's no fear.
There's no fear.
And it's only fear and love. Those are the only two things. So
that I agree with.
Yeah. So how can people find you now that you're not hidden anymore?
I have a website. It's my name, PAULSELIG.com. Okay. And that's how people can find me. And there's information on workshops. I do live streams every Wednesday where the guides are teaching and taking questions, which is sort of the ongoing laboratory for this work. And as you said, I'm doing retreats and workshops all over the place. So. And
is the workshop in Boone full, or are there still openings?
I'm sure there's still room. I think the capacity is high. I think we're filling up.
Okay.
So I would suggest that if people are interested, they might want to jump on
Hurry
it.
up.
For that their beds. I'm sure the retreat center is really, and I just saw pictures of it. It's stunning. It's stunning.
It is beautiful. Well, this whole area of the world is just, you know, I'm part of those mountain chains in Blairsville for a while, for not very long. And then I'm going to be in Florida, but hey, whatever. But thank you so very much. This has been enlightening, wonderful. Listeners and viewers, get these books. You don't have to start at the beginning. You might want to. I mean, I'm hard-headed, so, you know, I do it my way. But you're going to, you'll take away nuggets that will be important to you. It may not be life-changing for you, can't make any promises, but you'll definitely get nuggets that will be important. Thank you, Paul. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Bye-bye.